Hey everybody, Chris here. Welcome back to another episode of Woodmere Estate Revival. Today we're down working on the piece of property that we purchased first, the one where we tore down the old house. On that property there's a creek that runs through in between us and the neighboring property, and the previous owners at some point had built some sort of decorative pond. Not a huge pond, but it had a liner in it and it had a stone wall around it. They built a stone waterfall, had a big pump in there. I'm sure at one point it was real nice, real quaint. But by the time we bought the house, the pond had really filled in with a lot of silt, and it was full of snapping turtles and frogs and mosquitoes and everything else, and it was really overgrown and quite unsightly. Also, we thought it was unsafe, because you didn't have shore footing around there, and we were afraid one of the kids would fall into it and have a problem. So keeping that in mind, we went ahead and when we were tearing the house down, went ahead and used the excavator and ripped the dam out and let that thing drain out. And so it's been sitting empty now for the last year or so. We're going to go ahead today and take all the fill dirt that came from around the big house. We're going to take all that dirt and rock and debris and everything and use that to fill in the gully and fill in the pond. So I'm going to have to use this Bobcat excavator behind me and get in there and break all that dirt up and start filling in the gully. Get me a place where I can go down there in the machine and start pulling out the liner and all the waterfall and all that stuff, and then gradually just kind of fill in as I go. So it's going to be a pretty good project. We've got the machine all weekend. It's a 3-day weekend, so we're in good shape as far as time goes. Let's take a look around, and that way you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So here's our Bobcat E32 mini excavator. It's about a 7,500 pound machine. It's got the long arm option on it, so we got plenty of reach. We got a 24-inch bucket, brand new machine. We're excited to break this in for Advantage Valley Bobcat. We appreciate them taking good care of us for this project. So we'll keep you apprised on how that machine's working. Looks like a great piece of equipment, so looking forward to breaking it out and getting started. Here's the trailer we pulled it home with yesterday, also rented from Advantage Valley Bobcat. Nice folks out there, and there's of course my trusty Dodge pickup, muck boots, and everything else we need for this project. Let's take a walk over here and check out the work site. So you can see all the brick and all the firewood and stuff piled up here, old sections of fence. This is where that old house was. It was like a little 3-bedroom, 1.5, 2-story cottage. Really interesting little chalet looking thing. Had shake sides on the top, and it was interesting. But by the time we got there, the house, the roof had failed, and the water had just intruded throughout the entire property, and so the house was not savable. We thought originally we were going to be able to keep it as like a guest house, but again, by the time we got to it, the rot was so severe and the mold was so bad that we ended up just tearing it down. So now we got all the patio bricks stacked up over here, firewood, fence, like I said. This is my next project once we get the house project done. This is my 1962 Dodge M37 B1 Power Wagon. This was a Korean War era truck and was in Marine Corps service at some point. We can tell that by the paint that we found underneath all the layers of paint. But it's a runner, no brakes, but it runs. So we're going to get to this project hopefully sometime during the winter or maybe next spring. So again, here's the remains of the old slab. Looking around to see if my friend the snake's here. There's a snake that lives in this wood pile. I don't see him this morning, but here's the old slab, and you can see what's left of the driveway and the parking pad here. We're going to get this torn out because this is where our new carriage house or 3-car garage shop is going to sit. So all this stuff's going to get torn out at some point. There's the boys' playhouse. Used to be a garden shed with some sort of weird funky roof on it. I tore it off and put a new roof on it. Obviously the house project has sidelined that as well. So that's something else I got to tackle this fall. But here's this big pile of earth. All this came, you see rock and all sorts of debris and shale and chunks of concrete and everything. All this came from around the house, the White House, and when they dug out and exposed the foundation, all this stuff had to go somewhere, so they brought it down here and put it in this big pile using the skid steer. So here's the little creek. It comes down past this hemlock and then runs down. It used to go next to this stone wall, and then it would run right past the stone wall and then dump over the hill. Real nice scenic little creek. There's our neighbor's property over there. They've got a real nice little pasture there they've been fixing up, and you can see the remnants of the old pond here. There's the old pond liner. We started pulling some of it out by hand, but it was so difficult to get it out of there because it was covered in years of silt and debris. So I'm going to use the machine to rip that out. So the plan, and underneath all that vegetative debris is the waterfall. Can't even see it because it's so overgrown. So it's really gotten bad. But the plan is to use all this dirt and rock and everything to start filling in the gully, because this is really washed really badly and has cut down through here, and it's really cut that that hollow really badly. So where the plan is to use the rock and heavy stuff, chunks of concrete and stuff, and begin to build up a platform down there that I can work off of. And then once I've got that in place, then I'm going to start moving the machine down in here and dragging the fill down and using that to fill in this gully. And then I'm gradually going to work my way up to the mouth of the pond here where the dam was, and then reach in there with that long arm machine and start pulling out the liner. As I get that out, I'll start using more of this fill, pulling it down there, packing that, and then move in further with the machine, so on and so forth, till we get to the back there and get this whole thing ripped out. So that's the plan. We're going to get started here in just a minute and keep you posted on the progress. All right, I'm making good progress. Got about 10 feet dug out so far, and it's being dumped down into that gully down there. Slowly but surely filling that up. Still got a long way to go to get back here into the pond area, but so far the strategy is working out pretty good. Filling in the low spot, and as you can see, once I get back down to grade here, I'll be able to take the machine down and actually start compacting all this stuff down in the gully and get it compacted, solidified to the point where I can actually drive the machine down in there and then begin to work back in the pond area here and start pulling that liner out and everything. So far so good. All right, update time. This little excavator is doing an awesome job. Got about 15 feet cleared out so far. You can see I'm back down to grade. You can see the dark topsoil there, and really got a lot of fill put down in this gully now. It had washed out really badly, so I'm going to have to kind of overfill it and then get down there with the machine and compact it. But I'm moving back along here, and I'm almost back to the original dam. Once I get down there, I'll be able to go pull out the rest of the liner and then start filling the pond in itself. Making good progress so far. All right, so I'm taking a quick break. I brought the machine down off the dirt pile and have been down in here in the old gully compacting all the dirt that I've been dumping down in here. And I got it compacted nicely. I wanted to kind of grade the hill over here towards this bank, because this was the original creek bank. Here you can see where they had rocks running up and down the side of the bank here, just a natural stone wall, or had kind of wrapped the stone around the edge of the bank here. So this was the old creek bed, and over time, because the way the pond was situated there, it started taking the creek over to this side, and then eventually it got over here into this softer dirt on the bank and began to erode and cut away the bank. So you can see how deep the gully is here, and it's real deep down in here. People have dumped logs and stuff down in here over the years, but it goes real deep right down in there. So my idea is to bring the creek bank back to its original place over here next to the stone wall, and so we'll be gradually kind of filling this in and compacting and putting a bunch of dirt and stuff down here just to anchor everything, and then we'll do some rocks over top of it to keep it from eroding again. But I'm getting a really good compaction down here, and I've got a nice gentle bank here now heading up to where our garage is going to sit. That way we won't have to jump across the creek or fall in the creek getting over here to visit our neighbors next piece of property over. Our kids play together all the time, so it's nice having a little bit better passageway for them. We've even talked about putting a little bridge across here at some point, so we'll see what we get into. But the next phase, once I get this area compacted a little bit more and filled a little more, the next phase is going to be going on up here and compacting all this so that I can actually get into the pond area and start pulling some fill down. And you can see the remains of the liner there. I've got to get that out of the way and then slowly fill the pond in all the way back to where that waterfall is under all that brush back there. So making good progress. Real happy with where I'm at after about an hour and a half on the machine. I'm gonna keep on trucking. All right, so I got a little more dirt dumped down in the gully there. I'm going to continue to kind of fill that in. I've got some dirt to move from the other end of the property that we dug up around the pool the other day. so we can go ahead and replumb the pool. I'm not going to use that to backfill against the pool. We're going to put sand on top of the new plumbing. So I'll be bringing that down here and dumping that right there at the end of that gully as well. And then we've used the machine now and gone all the way across over to the edge of the pond. And you can see I've still got a sizable mound of dirt here. So we got a lot more dirt to move, but we've really recontoured this whole edge of the property now. And once I get this dirt mound out of here, really everything will be nice and smooth and even all the way over to this creek bank. And then we'll just have a nice wet weather creek running down through here. I'll get some rocks and stuff put down in there, keep it from eroding again. But it's looking a lot better already. So the creek is really shaping up. It's looking a lot better. You can see where I've been going up and down the hill here, digging out that dirt and bringing it down here. I had this all nice and smooth a minute ago, but then I had to run back through here and start working over on the pond edge, so I got to beat up a little bit again. When I finish, I'll grade it all off nice and smooth again and get it good and compacted so we don't have any problems with erosion or sinkholes, anything like that. As you can see, I'm over here at the edge of the pond now, and I got enough dirt drug off the hill down into this area where I can actually start to come out into the pond and reach out and start pulling the liner out. Here's some of the liner that I ripped out just a minute ago. We were trying to do that by hand, but what we found is that there were so many big rocks and chunks of tree and everything else laying on top of it, not to mention years of decayed leaf matter, dirt and grass and everything else, that it was just impossible to do. So that was the main reason we got this machine down in here, was to rip this thing out. See Mr. Rabbit sitting on top of the manhole over there. So the idea is going to be to pull the liner out bit by bit and then pull some more dirt down the hill on top of it, make another place to move out a little further until I can finally get out into the center of the pond and rip all this stuff off of all the sides, and then we'll bring the dirt level up above the level of this little swale here so that, you know, water stays again on this side of the creek. So we'll have to bring the dirt up, you know, this high, fill it all in over here, and that way we can kind of direct the water flow again over against this rocky bank. So making good progress. All right, so I'm back up on top of the mountain here, got all the pond liner out of probably the front third of the pond, and so now I'm back up on top here grabbing dirt, dropping it down in there where I was before. I'll go back down in a little bit and get that good and compacted and move out a little bit further into the pond. It's a nasty mess. That pond, like I said, it's just full of old decaying leaf matter and everything else, and so that liner gets caught in the teeth on the excavator. You start pulling it and all of a sudden the liner rips, and that stuff's like a big rubber band, and it throws mud and muck and disgusting smelling water all over me and the excavator every time that happens. It's lovely. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you can see some of the stuff that gets thrown every time that liner rips. So I'm going to have to give this thing a good washing before I take it back to Advantage Valley Bobcat. But there's the pond, and that's what I'm working on right now. So I've pulled the liner out where you can see the water. All the liner's gone from that area. And so now I'm reaching over here and grabbing some of this loose fill, and then reaching out and dropping it back down over there. It's really soupy, so I'm going to have to be real careful when I get in there and start compacting it to make sure I don't get this thing hung up and have to pull myself out with the bucket. But you can see my little tram road. I'm moving into the pond there little by little. This stuff's real loose. Definitely don't want to get too close to the edge. It's starting to give way here, so I'm going to work real carefully here, drop some more of this fill in here, and then head back down below and keep packing it in. Cannonball! Big old chunk of concrete here. I'm asking for trouble. That's so nasty. But I couldn't resist. So speaking of creek, the creek is running now. Why? Because we just had a torrential rainstorm move through here a little while ago and just saturated the whole area, including me. My shoes and everything are just soaked. I was sitting on the machine when it came, and it just blew up out of nowhere. I could hear some thunder off in the distance, but then all of a sudden it started pouring down here. Didn't get a chance to get off the machine and take shelter in the truck. Let me squish through the mud up to the top here and show you where we're at. So the excavator is sitting in what used to be the pond. I've been gradually filling this end of the pond and packing it down and tramming the tractor over it, compacting and tramming and compacting. And you see a pile of rubber over here. That's that membrane that was on the bottom of the pond. Been gradually digging that out. I've got, I think, about 3/4 of that rubber membrane out, and last thing to do is to fill in this center a little bit more so we can tram the tractor or the excavator out there, and then I'll be able to reach into that cove over there. If I zoom in a little bit, you can actually see the remains of a pump right there, and there's a piece of plastic line on it, and then it goes up to the top of the waterfall up there, which of course you can't see because of all the vines and everything. So that's going to be the last piece to tackle after I get the rest of this stuff filled in and tram over top of it and get it solid as I can. But you can see this stuff is just really falling away here as I'm digging. It's just collapsing down in here. All this fill was pretty loose, and then the rain didn't help things. It's kind of slipping now a little bit too. So anyways, I'm going to keep trucking and keep getting the last of this filled in down here. Making really good progress. Real happy with the way everything's working out so far. All right, so I finally made it to the waterfall. Now sitting on the excavator on a whole bunch of dirt in the middle of the pond. The pond is slowly but surely getting filled up, getting more solid by the minute. Keep dumping more dirt in, tramming it across it, packing it down, pulling out the old waterproof membrane that was at the bottom of it. That stuff's been a real pain. It's got this rubbery texture to it, and it slingshots mud right back in my face, so that's real pleasant. But here you can see the waterfall. Somebody put a lot of time into this at one point. It had a pump, and it pumped it up to the top there, and then it came down and then poured down this waterfall. I'm sure it was very pretty at one point, but unfortunately the ravages of time have trashed it, and there's really no saving it. So that's why we decided to go ahead and tear it out and fill it back in and make more yard and kind of restore the natural contours of the hollow here. Well, that just about wraps up today's activities. It's been a very productive day. This Bobcat mini excavator has worked flawlessly, and we managed to get all of the earth moved except for one little pile. Tomorrow I'm going to have to come back down here and do some grading and just kind of smooth things off and compact a little bit more. But for the most part, the pond is gone, the gully is gone. Everything is looking a whole lot better back down here now. All the overgrowth and everything is gone for the most part, so it's really looking a whole lot more clean and neat and less overgrown. So kids should have a safer place to play down here now. I'll be able to keep the grass mowed and keep all the brush and everything cleaned off of it. So let's take a look and see what it looks like at the end of the day today. So here's the final little pile of dirt that needs moved. If you remember, it was about, I don't know, 5 times as big as the mini excavator when we got started. So moved a ton of dirt today, and as you can see, the pond is gone. Wasn't much of a pond when we started. I mean, it was just a overgrown mud pit full of mosquitoes and everything else. It was a hazard for the kids, and like I said, all the mosquitoes and everything that were breeding in there was no good. Snakes and everything else. You know, here's their clubhouse, or what will be the clubhouse. It was the potter's shed, as you can tell. But, you know, I just didn't want them playing down here and having all this nastiness right next door here. So as you can see, it's pretty well gone. There's a little bit of mud and stuff on this end. I haven't quite gotten all of this compacted. And you can see the remnants of the waterfall over there still. I'm going to have to do a little bit more grading on the back side of that, just to kind of smooth that out. But we've pretty well got this filled in now. And you can see over against the bank over there, that's where that stone wall is. That's where the creek's running now. That big rain that we had come through here earlier, it already started running in that direction. It's kind of pooling over there. We'll take a look at that in a second. So looking a whole lot better. I got rid of a lot of this dirt, but you can see I still have to do some more grading down here and really kind of get this smoothed off. There's still some more dirt to be shoved down into the hole and compacted. But we made a tremendous amount of progress today. It was so nice and dry down here and easy to work, and then we had that cloud burst come through and just drench everything. Now it's just a mud pit again. So, timing. So you can see we've started to fill this gully here as well. There's some old logs and junk down in there, and there's some bigger rocks that I'm going to be able to drop down in there as well, just to kind of help retain the soil. But it's really washed over the years. In behind this forsythia bush, I mean, it's just straight down. So we're going to continue to kind of fill that in and smooth that off. Again, that's kind of a safety hazard. Kids over here playing and fall in the hole. So again, nice smooth path now between the neighbor's lot and ours. I'm going to get this graded off even a little bit more, but we can almost drive a lawnmower over there now. It's to the point where you could go over there and take a lawnmower or a golf cart. It'll take a little more work, but we'll get it. And then you can see already the creek is running over here against the bank like it's supposed to be, and is going over the hill. But again, got to do a little more cleanup. Got to get all those pieces of rubber tarp and rubber pond liner, and then just kind of smooth it all out and grade it a little bit, just to get it running like it's supposed to. But man, what a tremendous difference. So that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. As always, we appreciate your comments. Feel free to leave questions or comments below. Give us a like if you would, please. Show us how much you enjoy the videos. Be sure to hit that subscription button if you haven't already. We really appreciate our subscribers, and would love for you guys to get signed on so you don't miss a single episode. Be sure to share the channel with your friends and family as well. We're having a lot of fun doing this project, enjoying sharing it with all y'all. So be sure to pass it along and show some more folks what's going on down here at Woodmere Estate. We'll see you again real soon for part 2 of this project.